Hi friends, so in this video I want to show you the top 4 beginner mistakes I made in my journey towards being more minimal and also how to avoid them. So it has been roughly 3 months since I started this channel and it's time to do a sort of recap on how it went, and for that I have chosen to do a sort of recap of which mistakes I've actually made on my journey, and there'll be 4 of them presented in this video and also how you can avoid them. So the first mistake I made was keeping the stuff I decluttered for way too long afterwards. So I would say that this is probably the biggest mistake I've made so far, and also the one that has annoyed me the most, because what actually happened was that I gathered all these items that I either want to sell or throw out or discard. So I kept them as this box if it was to be donated, and I put it in a bag if I wanted to throw it away. But what actually happened was that I just still had it here. So the donate pile, the donate box, I couldn't give that away because there's lockdown and restrictions here in Denmark because of COVID-19 right now. So it has just standing here until the shop is open. That is sort of an excuse, but what so actually happened was that also all the trash and the stuff that needed to be put up for sale just were in their boxes as well, actually. Because I think I sort of had like a mental block where I thought that if I couldn't finish this task because I couldn't donate the items, then I might as well not start because I can't finish it anyway. So what happened there was that it just stood here and didn't really get out of the way. And what can sort of happen if you do that for too long at least is that you sort of reintegrate the clutter again. So you start to think about, oh, maybe this and this item wasn't to be thrown out anyway, so you take it back and you put it somewhere, and then all of a sudden you're just getting decluttered back again, recluttered, so to speak. So luckily the solution to that one is quite simple, but also obviously could be hard depending on how you are as a person, because it's just about getting started actually. So what will happen if you just start with one item, take one item up, either throw it out if it needs to go in the trash, or if it's going to be something that is going to be put up for sale, start by putting that one up for sale. And after you've put the first item up for sale, just keep going. Now you've got the momentum, and now it's time to grab that and just push on through. Don't wait for motivation, because it might not show up. And when I first got going, it didn't actually take that long. For all the items I've put up for sale, I only have one left actually. So it's all about just get going. Just start with one item and then just push through it if you can. And if you need to break it into smaller tasks and to chip at it, that's perfectly fine. The second mistake I made was to wait for the perfect moment. And let me just start by saying the perfect moment doesn't exist. So you don't need to block whole days or even whole hours, a lot of hours for it to start. You can just start small, just chip at it, and then when you got going, you just keep on pushing through. Don't wait for some sort of motivation to come flying. If you do have motivation for it, then it's great. Then you just need to grab it, and then you just need to pull through and then get it done. But if you're just sitting and waiting for it, but sometimes just to be motivated, it might not come to you. And if you do grab even a flinch of motivation, then you just grab it and then you just go right away. You don't need to finish a whole area at once. You don't need to finish your kitchen at once. You can just start basically. The third mistake I made was to think that minimalism has to look a certain way. And it's easy, because if you do a simple Google image search and just type in minimalism, you'll get all these results where it's all white surfaces and very, very, very sleek design, and that hasn't anything to do with minimalism, I would think. So it is a certain branch of minimalism, I would say. And I like to call it aesthetic minimalism, which is sort of a trend that indoor magazines like to push. It's absolutely fine to use social media such as Facebook or Instagram or Pinterest to get inspiration for your own journey and your own way to design minimalism. But if you start to think that you aren't up to par, if you start to compare yourself with all these glamour shots and setup shots, then you might need to think about taking a break from social media, especially if you're feeling a bit down about not being just like the pictures on social media. What we want to do is to avoid trying to keep up with the Joneses and Just because somebody's house on Instagram doesn't look like your house, that's perfectly fine, because this is your house, it's not their house, and their house is not yours. So it's perfectly fine. There is a major difference between those two, and it's not something that you should compare yourself to. As always with social media, there might be a lot more to the eye that you can't see, because you don't know outside the shot if everything else is just pushed away and all the clutter is just behind the camera. You can't possibly know that at all. For social media, you only see the highlights, so it's very important to think about that when you're seeing something, and it's important to take this journey in your own pace, and if you need to do baby steps, then do baby steps. Mistake number 4 was to not give everything a home from the start. Marie Kondo puts it elegantly: the aim of storage is to give every item a home, a designated spot for it to rest and recharge when not in use. It is so simple and so effective, because it forces you to think about that if you have an item and it hasn't got a spot or home in your house, then is it actually an essential item? So in that way, you might even get to declutter a lot more than you actually think, just by designating a spot for everything you own. This can obviously feel like a pretty big task, because when you start at it, the end of the task is when you actually complete it for all items you have, which is quite a mouthful, obviously. So as with mistake 1 and 2, I encourage you to try to just chip at it every now and then. Just start doing it. You don't actually have to start with one end of your house and then finish in the other end, and then in the meanwhile you have to complete for everything. You can just start by taking one room, for example, and then start with that instead. For example, you can watch my video, I'll link to it somewhere up here, where I declared my office a clutter-free zone. So that's maybe one thing you can do. You can use your bedroom, you can use your living room, or whatever you prefer. So again, the solution if you feel overwhelmed is to chip at it, as mentioned earlier, and just going bit by bit and just start actually. If you feel motivated by it, grab it and then just go, and in the end you'll thank yourself when you're done. That was it for me, and I hope you liked this video, and I sincerely hope that it will help you avoid the mistakes that I have made, because some of them has annoyed me a lot, and some of them is quite easy to actually don't make if you think about it and are aware of it can happen. As always, if you want to support me, either like the video, subscribe to my channel, leave a comment down below to support. It'll be make my day basically, and I will see you in the next one.